Have you ever actually known, where somewhere underneath the part where you were still walking, you knew you were on the wrong road, but you kept walking anyway? Boy, I've driven like that. I get lost all the time and I say, you know what? I'm really not on the right road, but let's just keep going and see where we get. There are times where I think growing up, I was working very hard at getting my life in the right direction. And I knew I was going in a direction, that I was doing well moving out of what I was trying to move out of. But I also sensed I was not on the right road, that my life, while it was progressing, wasn't pushing forward in the direction it should have been. And instead of turning back, instead of re-looking at it and evaluating what the cost was, to myself, I kept going. And so that phrase is what has been sitting with me today. And I wanted to talk about this, the right road, the next right thing. There's a podcast with that name. I really admire it. You've heard that one. It's everything. The next right road, because sometimes the most faithful thing you can do is not to take a step forward. It's to admit that you're facing in the wrong direction and turn around, go a different direction. And C.S. Lewis makes this case directly in Mere Christianity, and he's talking about a progress, actual progress, the kind that gets you somewhere. And he says something that cuts against almost everything our culture believes about moving forward. Progress, he says, means getting nearer to where you actually want to be. And if you've taken a wrong turn, going forward doesn't get you anywhere nearer to that place. It just gets you further from it, faster. And if you're on the wrong road, progress is going the wrong direction. The forward thing is where you have to turn around. Lewis almost puts it as a paradox. The man who turns back soonest is actually the most progressive man. And you think about that we think of progress and we hurtle towards it. Not just us personally, but in society. And we say, well, you know what? This is just progress. But if it's the wrong direction, it's the wrong thing, it's the wrong way, it's not progressive at all. It's regressive because it's taking us in the wrong direction. But we just tend to think we should just move forward as if there is a known direction of what forward looks like. And so if you sit with that for a second, it inverts the whole way we're taught to think about moving on. We treat turning back as a failure and pressing on or going forward as a virtue. And Lewis says almost the exact opposite. Refusing to turn back when you know it's wrong isn't just determination. It's just about you being stuck and dressing it up like it's a strength. I think that if you think of, particular wrong roads that you're going on, for me, I was going in a direction of academics. I was going to go and go into graduate school and become a professor. And it was something that I was pushing very hard for. And all of a sudden, I became a Christian at 22, and suddenly it struck me, I'm going the wrong direction. I am not going the right way. Even though the right way looked very appealing, I had a full ride going to a university. I had been working on this throughout my undergraduate school. And, you just keep pushing forward, and then you suddenly realize, oh no, it's the wrong road. And you probably have seen certain things in your own life that's done that. Maybe it's a relationship you keep investing in when it's past the time it should have ended, or a job that you're just white knuckling your way through it out of pride. Or maybe a habit you defended because if you had to admit it was wrong, that would be worse than actually just staying in it and letting it go. You see that I think that one kind of resonated the most with me because you see people who have gotten themselves involved in gambling or gotten themselves involved in all sorts of things that they shouldn't, and they will defend it to the very end because it just feels so right to go down this way. And Lewis didn't only make this case that in his theology books, he put it in the story, and one of my favorites is the whole Narnia series. And in this one, it's The Silver Chair. Aslan sends the two children, Jill and Eustace, on a quest to find a lost prince before they go. And he gives Jill 4 signs and warns her that they won't look the same once she's down in Narnia as they did when they're up on the mountain with him. that the air will be thicker there, things will be a little bit more confusing. And that's exactly why she knows the signs by heart instead of trusting what things look like at that moment. So if we remember the signs, he tells her, believe the signs, nothing else matters. And then she doesn't. And she and Eustace walk right past the first sign, miss the second one, and by the time they crossed into this ruined city that was supposed to be unmistakable, they walked straight over it without realizing that's what it was, because the picture didn't look like anything that they had pictured. The turning point in that book isn't a clever forward move. It's their companion, Puddleglum, stopping everyone and forcing them to say out loud, we missed it. We have to go back. And they do. They retrace the steps underground in the dark to find what they walked past. And so the thing that struck me is that Lewis didn't invent this pattern, but he was describing something he already found sitting in the scriptures. The Bible is full of places where people are standing at a fork, and the sign is right there. And the question is only what they will do once they see what it is. You think of Pharaoh in Exodus. He doesn't miss the signs. They're unmissable. He watches 10 plagues, one after the other, each unmistakable. The water turning to blood, the frogs, the locusts, the darkness, every single one of the plagues as a sign, as plain as Aslan's sign. And every single time, Pharaoh's response is the same. He hardens his heart, stays the course. He's not confused. He's not the child who walked past the ruined city without noticing. He's the one who sees clearly and chose to keep walking anyway. Scripture doesn't treat that as a strength. It treats it as a thing that finally destroys him. There's Jonah, too. I always love Jonah for this, too, because we're going to get to Jonah when we get to the Bible in small steps, because he's the mirror image. God gives him one job, go to Nineveh, and Jonah reads that sign perfectly. He understands it completely. He knows what he's supposed to do, and he runs in the opposite direction on purpose, buys a ticket, goes the other way, gets on a boat. He's not lost. He's rebelling with his eyes wide open. But Jonah's story doesn't end on the boat. After the storm, after the fish, he does the one thing that Pharaoh never does. He turns around and goes to Nineveh after all. The whole book is about turning around. And you might notice that when you see these together, Pharaoh saw the sign and he refused to turn. Jonah saw the sign and ran from it and then did turn, eventually in the dark, in the belly of a beast. So the idea is that it gives us that one more image about what matters most about what you do in your own week. What happens to you when you actually turn back? And Jesus answers that question with a story of his own. So the prodigal son, right? The son who took every wrong turn available to him, spent everything, not only the money he had, but his future money, his inheritance money, his family's money, and ends up feeding pigs in a far-off country and eating what the pigs were eating because he had nothing. Finally comes to his senses, heads back home. And what does he get when he gets back home? And not a lecture, not a probationary period. His father sees him long off in the distance, in the horizon. His dad was scouring the horizon for just the mere shape of him. And when his father sees him, the part that I don't want you to miss, the turning back itself wasn't a humiliating part of the story. It was the part when he gets found, when he gets back to where he is loved. And the same shape as Aslan, not stripping Jill of her task because she missed all the signs. It's not new to C.S. Lewis. It's the oldest story there is. God does not meet turning back with shame. He runs at it. He runs towards us at it. And, you think, what's the word repent? Turn around, think again, metanoia, but, turn around in your life. And so a few small steps for the road you're actually on is name one road, honestly, that you've been on, that you keep pressing forward on. And is it something you've always known for a while? Is it that it's the absolute wrong direction? And then ask yourself right now, is Pharaoh watching the signs and staying on course out of pride? Jonah already running and not turned around yet? Is that part of pride? What is it that's working in you that is causing you to go now down the wrong path? And then 3, let the turning back be met, the way that the prodigal son was, and not with shame and not with a new, fresh set of hoops to run through, but just turn back towards home and already being, where you need to run to. If you want to sit with that a little bit more, Mere Christianity has Lewis's direct argument for it, and Narnia, the Silver Chair, has the full story. But the parable that Luke has in 15 has the ending, all of its pointing towards turning back towards home. Any one of those would make a good read next week if you're falling into this particular situation. All right, everyone. I appreciate you being out there. I'm Jill from the Northwoods, and you can find everything I do at jillfromthenorthwoods.com. And I invite any of you, this week, think about the road that you're already on that you know you need to turn back on. And let today be that day. Stop treating it like a failure and start realizing that sometimes turning around and going back the way you came is the right direction. All right, everyone. Thanks so much.